Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start off with a simple question. This is to you, Ms. Ty. When you conduct your penetration testing or technical vulnerability assessment, who decides when that happens? Can the department come and say, listen, this is a tool we would like to use, can you do this, or is this something that you do independently?
We do it independently.
And is that the same across most agencies?
I think that's the same with most IGs who do penetration testing. I'm not sure everybody does.
And how often do you plan on doing penetration testing?
We do it every year as part of our FSMA audit.
Okay. Because that's an industry best practice, and it's a good thing that this is going on, and the information you glean is important for Dr. Harris and his team. Dr. Harris, the remaining of my questions are for you, and I'm going to read your statements. And I usually like to dig into the weeds at these hearings, but there's a lot of big rock strategic issues that have come out here today. In your testimony, you say the department level CIO, that's you, manages all core IT functions, including but not limited to IT operations, cybersecurity, enterprise architecture, and IT investment management. And you further add that the Office of Federal Student Aid, FSA, appoints a separate CIO. Now, you're saying that you're responsible for all IT department activity, but you don't have control over all the activities within the Department of Education. Would that be a true statement?
That is correct, Representative Hurd.
Does that make sense?
I believe that FTARO will strengthen my ability and authority to actually provide more guidance and oversight, and if you want to use the word control over operations. Right now, that is a challenge.
So there's two people missing here today, to be frank. Number one is the agency head, right? And I know Arnie Duncan has announced his retirement and John over as acting duties, and I think through the rest of this administration, because ultimately the buck stops there. But we're also missing the CIO of FSA participating in this conversation, because it doesn't make any sense. And we go back to the issue of data centers. The Department of Education is ultimately responsible for all the data centers that hold information for these kids that are applying for federal aid. So saying that we have 3 is being disingenuous, right? And my question is, when we have these issues, who's remediating these vulnerabilities, especially when it comes to FSA? Are you responsible for it? Is the CIO of FSA responsible for it? Who's ultimately supposed to be held accountable for these issues? And you talk about NACS implementation. Is this going to include all the subcontractors, or is this just Department of Education employees that have that on their badge, not necessarily all the subcontractors that work for you?
Currently, it's just the Department of Education, the latter.
Does that make sense?
No, sir, it does not.
So, IG report showed that since 2011, there was no mechanism to restrict the use of unauthorized devices on the network. Having the ability to find devices on your network, does it really take 4 years to figure that out?
With the talent we had, sir, it took us that long. And in the last 3 years, we've made a tremendous amount of progress.
Well, that's not very encouraging. I'm hoping we have increased the talent in order to do that, because, Ms. Ty, would you have any opinions on how long it would take to implement one of these systems?
Well, I would hope it would be done sooner, but
well,
I would point out that this year's report also highlighted this again as an issue. So to the extent that...
Great. So, Mr. Harris, how many users do you have in the Department of Education?
Approximately 6,000, sir.
Okay. And how many, does that include subcontractors?
That is correct, sir.
So 6,000, just 6,000.
Yes, sir.
6,000 is not a lot, right? And I would hope you would share with your CIOs and agency heads. Generally, when I ask questions at these hearings, I know the answer because I used to do this for a living, right? And to implement controls on 6,000 users should not take 4 years. I literally thought you were going to say 60,000 or 600,000 users, right? This is completely unacceptable. So who are some of the vendors? So you have there's 120 contractors. Is that right, Chairman? Or do you know the answer? How many other subcontractors do you have?
Now, the 6,000 includes just the individuals using the department's data centers. It does not include the users for the subcontractors outside of the VDC. And
So why are these subcontractors not under your purview and your responsibility and your operational control?
Because for the most part, FSA has contractual arrangements with them. They don't operate their data
So
centers.
why does FSA not, so does Arnie Duncan have control over FSA? Does Arnie Duncan tell FSA do this and FSA does that?
I can't answer that, sir. I'd like to get back to you.
So the CIO of FSA, can you tell that person what to do?
I cannot, sir. That person reports to the COO of FSA. I
And
provide direction.
And do you know who the COO of FSA reports to?
Yes, the secretary.
Interesting. I don't even know where to continue. I see my time has expired. But this is the kind of issue that the American people are completely frustrated with. This is, this is not a bureaucratic exercise, as my friend from Virginia pointed out, and saying that Department of Education has a certain level, but you're responsible for all these others. And if you don't have the authority or the power to do that, then you know what, we're here to give you that authority because we want to hold you accountable, but we want to make sure you have all the tools at your disposal to do these things. But it's unacceptable to say 6,000 people. I could probably do that over the weekend. This is completely unacceptable, and I look forward to the hearings tomorrow. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, for going over my time. I yield back.